Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 116. From the hay bales of Kansas to the mountaintops of New Hampshire, Craig Cushman, Hunter Specialties. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Grant Woods from Growing Deer TV. You're listening to one of my favorite deer hunting podcasts on the internet, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey there, this is Brandon Grindle with Buck 50. And you're about to listen to another amazing deer hunting podcast with Jay and Dusty on the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hi, this is Carl Drake, pro staffer with Realtree Outdoors.
And this is Adam Vinatieri with the Indianapolis Colts.
And you're listening to our favorite deer hunting podcast,
the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. I'm Jay Scott. And
I'm Dusty Phillips.
There he is, the man, the legend. What's up, Dusty?
Oh man, just getting my mind right. That's all. Just getting things organized, getting things prepped, doing some fine tuning on the archery equipment, just getting stuff laid out, and trying to get myself jazzed up, pumped up, and amped up about season kicking off here in about a week.
Yeah, well, we're in it now, and it's the problem with being in it this early is that sometimes you get those hot ends of the summer, because technically we're still in summer.
Right,
it
absolutely.
hasn't turned yet, right? So it's still like 80-something degrees during the day. And until that kind of changes, I just don't feel like it's hunting season. Even though, I mean, it's on my mind, especially in the morning and the evening.
Jay, stop. I don't need excuses, dude.
There's no excuses.
To the tree stand.
You got to get out. Absolutely.
But, gotta go, man.
But
regardless of temps, you got to go.
But do you agree?
Maybe. I don't know, man.
So you're a heat hunter. You don't care.
The only thing I care about is meat storage, like when it gets hot. That's
my concern.
Right. I agree. I agree to that part of it, but man, there's opportunity to shoot some pattern bucks right now. It's unbelievable.
That is true. My only concern is I don't have a freezer big enough.
All right, I agree to that.
Got to process it like day one.
You know, and another thing that I don't know. I play this a little different than most. Like if I'm going to shoot a meat doe, like, a nice mature doe that I'm going to put in the freezer.
Yep.
I like to wait till like the second frost. Does that make sense?
That does make sense to me.
Seems like it eliminates some of the ticks, fleas, parasites. Just that second frost, third frost.
Right.
When the temperatures are cold enough where maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just a mental thing for me. But I definitely consider that. That's something. But shooting a big buck, I don't know. If he makes a walk by and it's warm out,
do it.
I'm going to drive and find a cooler somewhere.
All right, I'm with you. Maybe I should just change my thought on that completely.
You can always buy enough bags of ice to keep a deer overnight.
Right, that's true. So if you're walking down the aisle at your favorite retail outdoor sporting goods place, you've undoubtedly seen the brand name Hunter's Specialty. Have you not?
Absolutely.
It's everywhere. In fact, I bet if you look around your house right now or in your hunting bag or bins or wherever you store your gear, I bet you'll find something that has the Hunter's Specialty logo on it.
Absolutely. I think that's pretty common for most hunters.
It is. And I thought it would be interesting to talk to somebody that knows more about Hunter Specialty than probably almost anybody on the planet. He's the marketing director, Hunter Specialties. It's Craig Cushman. Turns out Craig actually lives in my home state of New Hampshire and works for Hunter Specialties in the Midwest. But he went to school in New Hampshire and has hunted the mountains that I hunt and have hunted and have driven by many times. And now he's not only hunting the areas in New Hampshire that I'm familiar with, but he's also got a transitional hunt where he can hunt the hay bales in Kansas in the Midwest, which is completely different than hunting in New Hampshire. Yet he gets to cover it all because he's Craig Cushman. So
Absolutely.
I thought it'd be really interesting to get him on to tell us about the contrasts of hunting the hills and mountains of New Hampshire versus the flats and the fields of Kansas, and learning more about Hunter Specialty at the same time.
I think we're in for an awesome story, Jay.
Yes. Fantastic storyteller. Craig Cushman from Hunter Specialties is about to join us. Craig Cushman, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. What's happening,
Thanks,
man?
guys. Well, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
We're psyched.
Absolutely.
So, I'm cruising Facebook, Craig, and I see that there's this guy that's hanging out with Gordon Whittington, who's a good buddy of ours. Who was a guest on our show, and I just talked to Gordon the other day, and I see you hanging out with him. Like, who is this guy, Craig? What's he doing with my buddy Gordon? And you're holding some massive antler, of course, as I would expect you to do if you're hanging out with Gordon. Yeah. And
sure,
lo and behold, you're in New Hampshire. You live in the same state that I do. It's like, that's amazing. And then it gets better.
Yeah, and it's a small state too, so you usually know a lot of people in the state. So I'm surprised we haven't crossed paths.
Exactly, and you live in the same place that I kind of work, and and the same kind of thing happened with Greg Ritz over at Hunt Masters. We had the same kind of experience with Greg. So I'm always amazed at how many people I find here in New Hampshire that have some kind of a hunting background, and then on top of that, you represent one of the most well-known, recognized brands of hunting apparel and stuff that I've ever seen, called Hunter Specialties. And I got to have Craig on my show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you following up too. Going back to Gordon real quick, you're not going to find a better guy. And if you guys have interviewed him, you know how open and excited he is about whitetails and big whitetails especially. And as a person, I just love Gordon. He is as salt of the earth as you can get. So I happen to be doing a media swing down through the Georgia area, and they're based out of Marietta, and I had to swing in and see those guys. And it's always good to see him, and he's been good to me. I've known Gordon now for quite a long time, and I enjoy the time I get to spend with him. Yeah,
I totally enjoyed the hour that we got to talk to him. And, I literally picked up the phone the other day because I'm interested in talking to Mel Johnson, and I wasn't sure if he was still around, and I figured if anybody would know, it would be Gordon. So he kind of filled me in on what he knew, and it was just a casual, Sunday afternoon conversation. It was great. So
it was terrific guy.
Yeah, great guy, just an amazing guy. So Craig, how does one get into being the marketing director for Hunter Specialties?
Well, this is one of my more recent ventures in it. My love of the outdoors and goes way back in New Hampshire roots, as you mentioned, Jay, and went to school at Plymouth State with a marketing degree and get out of there. And that afforded me for the listeners that don't know, Plymouth State College is a college up in the mountains, White Mountains of New Hampshire. So you literally have some of the best fishing and hunting in the state, and a great school to boot. So I probably spent more time hunting and fishing than I should have, and took me a little longer to get out of school. And I get chided by my parents all the time on that one. Excuse me. But realistically, at that point in my life, I knew what I wanted to do. I just love hunting and fishing, and I love marketing and advertising, and that's really what I wanted to marry. And so I set about working in the outdoor world, and have a long career with great brands like Ray Marine. Literally Ray Marine on the marine electronics side, got with them when they were still owned by Raytheon, and became the global marketing manager for that company. When that company was sold, had a very fortunate meeting with the owners of Garmin in the fledgling years of Garmin.
Sure.
Actually, Gary Burrell and Dr. Min Kao, and they asked me to come to Kansas and help them get into the marine market. So I had this this awesome opportunity to go from New Hampshire to Kansas, which as a bow hunter just fired me up. Forget the fact that I was getting to go work for a great company like Garmin. I was going to live in Kansas, Big Buck Central,
Yeah. Oh, heck
yeah. Rode that rocket ship at Garmin, just in the early 2000s as it just grew and exploded. And it was very cool. My family and my heart brought me back and brought us back to New England and back to New Hampshire, where I had opportunity. You mentioned Greg Ritz. That's funny. I went in and became the director of marketing for Thompson Center.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
Over in Rochester when Greg had sold it to Smith & Wesson, where it now resides. And
right.
Had a great run with that brand and working for Smith & Wesson. Unfortunately, during the transition of going from New Hampshire to Massachusetts. But nonetheless, what an awesome brand. And as a New Hampshire kid to have grown up using Thompson Center and then have the opportunity to really drive the marketing for a brand like that. Are you kidding me? I literally was doing backflips when I got that job. It was just terrific. Through a couple turns of events, I went over to Ruger. Yep. And it did development work for Ruger for a few years. And what a spectacular company. Certainly New Hampshire plant, they've got several plants around the country, but can you think of a better couple of brands in Thompson Center and Ruger to work in and learn from in the outdoor world? I can't. Very, very few.
I'd be doing backflips too. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I've been very fortunate, and it's funny. You ask how do you end up at a great brand like Hunter Specialties. While I was at Ruger, I was not in the market for a job. I was very happy doing what I was doing. And again, what a terrific company and great products to be working with. I got this call out of the blue about this company in the Midwest, and they kind of wouldn't tell me who it is. And they said, listen, this is a company that's got brand new owners that have come in. The company, the brand, but these new owners, they're gonna really, turn the dial to 11 and change this company. And they're looking for really experienced outdoors marketing, sales, management team that can come in here and change this company. And, as you do, guys, you have those discussions with your family and you just say, boy, this is an opportunity I can't pass up. Right. When I found out it was Hunter Specialties, I knew some of the background on the company and where how they had developed and things like that. And when I look in my own backpack for hunting, there's a high percentage of the products that are in there are Hunter Specialties products. Right. Not because I had some affinity for HS. It was just that they were the products that I could count on, rely on, and therefore I tended to buy a higher percentage of them. So, man, as a marketer and as a brand guy, and then ultimately as a passionate outdoorsman, hunter and fisherman, when you find a combination of those three things, right? Great brand, great products, feeds my passion, and the fourth element being fueled by an investment company that really wants to restore the glory of the brand. Boy, I couldn't pass that up. I couldn't.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And to think about, Hunter Specialties, it really is one of those brands that's just kind of always there. It's always in the background somehow, no matter what. And if I looked around my house, I would find the soap in my bathroom. I would find the spray in about 4 of my packs that I use for different things for whatever reason. My fanny pack, if I'm, just doing a quick walk, or if I'm hiking it all day long, there's another spray of some sort in there. There's sure. the some of the tree markers to find your way to your tree stand in the dark. I'm sure that was a Hunter Specialty item. It just seems like there's an endless supply of just things that you need as an everyday hunter that HS has developed. And there's always a line somewhere in Walmart, if you go in there, or any other large retailer carries this stuff if it has to do with the outdoors.
Crazy you say that, Jay. I'm actually sitting here looking at a bottle of Sinaway Max.
Yes, right.
And a refill bottle, 32 ouncer, sitting right beside it.
That's what I'm talking about, right? It's just always around somewhere.
Yeah,
you can look around your house. It's just there's just a bottle of HS somewhere. So, and I can remember going way back, like some of my earliest days of getting, and I not necessarily the earliest days of hunting, but the earliest days of hunting seriously. I can remember making my dad spray down because he was never a scent guy. I was like, no, you got to spray down, Dad.
Yep.
That kind of thing. It was an HS product. So what's and that was years ago. So what's the development of HS? Who are they? Where are they from? What's the, when did they begin this whole process?
Sure. It's one of those great stories. And we're writing a happy ending, I think, is what we're trying to do here is so Dave and Carmen Forbes started the company in 1977. And, they had ideas for products. I mean, quite literally, duck decoys and things like that made out of plastic bottles, and just some really, by today's standards, you say it's a super rudimentary ideas for products. And, they just started out building these things themselves, and things came along like camo face paint, right? The camo compact product that they developed, before it was cool and everybody was doing it, right? And they just through hard work, determination, understanding of the hunter, and some ingenuity, started to develop this product line that consisted of really, really good products hunters could rely on. And I'll tell you, from 77 to 2007, let's say, or even through 97, they could do no wrong. If you think about the landscape of accessory companies today, none of them really existed back then, or very, very few, I should say. So everything that David and Carmen did with Hunter Specialties or HS Strut, the turkey brand, man, just was spectacular. And I think they really gained that trust of the hunter, if you will, for good, solid performing products. When scent elimination started to come in, the scent away products and just think of all the crazy products, the butt out. I mean, we sell zillions of those things.
Yeah,
ridiculous product if you stop and think about it, but it's the most useful, ridiculous thing you've ever put in your pack and count on. So they just really did a terrific job for decades, building the brand, and having, giving hunters a real reason to have an affinity for the brand. As companies do, they go through ups, they go through downs. As we got into the 2000s, you started to see a lot of other companies start to creep in. The generalist, typically in business, as you guys know, the generalist usually gets picked away at by the specialist, right?
Right.
About any category, you can find examples of that. And there were no exceptions here with HS. So I think that, the tides turned for them, and they really, it kind of lost its steam, and went through some tough times, 2009 to right up to, 2014. And that's when, this investment group that purchased it out of Texas, they looked at this brand, or the family of brands, because if you think about the company for a second, it's not just HS. It's not just HS Strut. You've got Johnny Stewart game calls in there.
Okay.
You've got Wayne Carlton elk calls. If you're an elk hunter and you grew up elk hunting, Wayne Carlton is the man. So the Wayne Carlton brand of elk calls is just terrific. And you've got now, we've added the Buck Bomb brand onto it. So it's this great family of just really awesome products for the specialist hunter, that, Peak Rock looked at and said, gosh, with the right management in there and really getting best business practices going in there, this is a company that we can really turn around. So, just at the first of the year, they They brought me in to take over the marketing end of the company, and they brought in some just terrific, talented people. John Trull, a gentleman that's been senior positions and VP positions, general management positions at Remington, running Remington plants, and just knowledge that you've got to have in the outdoor industry to really understand how to do business in the outdoor industry. Outdoor industry isn't like typical consumer packaged goods. It's different. It's got different players. It's very political. It's old school network. So if you don't know that coming into it, you're not going to do well. Peak Rock recognized that, and they wanted the best guys they could get. So John Trull's doing an awesome job. Scott Thomas came in to direct as our VP of new product development. Comes out of Berkeley, Pure Fishing. Names that I'm sure you guys are familiar with on the fishing side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So awesome products, awesome tools and things like that Scott developed for them. Now he's got a team of folks here doing the same thing for HS. And the list really goes on and on of guys that are seasoned veterans of the outdoor industry that I'll tell you, I've worked with a lot of very, very talented people. I've never worked with a more committed, fun group of guys than this group. And what makes us fun is that we are all diehard hunters.
Interesting.
And you've got to have that passion to really drive a brand. So lots of big changes happening. Lots of big changes. From a marketing standpoint, we had to do some soul searching as to what is Hunter Specialties. What are we? What does the average hunter think we are? And we did a whole bunch of studies on that and tried to figure that out, and then really asked ourselves, what do we want to be to the hunter?
Right.
So if you watched any of the recent television commercials that are running, any of the print ads that are running for HS, you'll see this little tagline in there that says serious hunting tools.
Right.
All right. Three words, serious hunting tools. It really, in its most simplistic form, it tells you what HS is. We're not going to get gimmicky going forward. We're not going to be into gimmicks. We're not going to do cheap and cheerful. That's not our thing.
Okay.
We're going to continue to develop and design products that serious hunters can count on. So when we look at a new product and developing a new product for this brand, we say, well, is it a serious hunting tool? Or is that idea, does that live up to the brand promise of serious hunting tool? And, when you look at all the brands that are out there in our space of accessories, we want to be the adult in the room. We're like I said, we're not going to make products that look like they come out of a Happy Meal. That's not our thing. We want the guy who wants the best product in that category, and that's our customer right there.
Gotcha.
So good fun, man. Great guys. Unbelievable amount of product development going on. The marketing, from my standpoint, I'm a kid in a candy store, and man, just good things happening for Hunter Specialties. Really, really excited about it.
Okay. So what's a day in the life of working for Hunter Specialties? So, you gotta go into the office, right? And is it a bunch of guys dressed in camouflage driving pickup trucks, or is this a suit kind of atmosphere? What are we talking about here?
Well, great question. If you find somebody come in with a tie on, they will be chastised and probably have their tie cut off,
promptly extracted from the building.
Yeah, that's right. No, very, very laid back. It wasn't always that way. It wasn't always a policy. Under our policy, we're listening. Our policy, guys, we want you to be as comfortable and wear whatever you want. No, do people show up in camo? I do on the weekends when I go into work, okay. but not during the week. Really relaxed, blue jeans, boots, and we don't care what you wear. We care about moving the company forward. Right now, very long days. I walked in that building this morning at 6:15. I walked into my home here 10 minutes, 15 minutes before we started this call, which was 8 o'clock my time. Those are long days. That's the kind of heavy lifting that we're doing as a team to turn this company around. And I wasn't the last one to leave tonight.
No kidding.
So it gives you some idea of the sort of the dedication that this team has to moving the company forward. It's like I said, very, very incredibly motivating bunch of guys to be around.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned that the specialists have been nitpicking at the generalist here for a while, and the Hunter Specialties would be considered a generalist based off of what you said.
Sure.
Who are the competitors? I mean, what is it that they're picking away at, and how do you beat that?
Well, I think that when you look at, let's go back historically, not necessarily today, but let's go back, let's say 10 years ago. Okay, so you had, let's just take scent elimination, for example. You had a scent away product. You might have had a couple of other products, right? There was only, right? So now you look at the shelf today, and you've got scent away, and you've got dead downwind, and you've got a scent freak, control freak from Primos. You've got, scent killer gold. So you've got now, gosh, any retailer can have his pick of 8 or 10 different brands of scent elimination spray. When you're the generalist, you've got a limited amount of advertising and marketing dollars, and we'd all love to dump, all of them into, one product line and drive that, and it'd be great, but you really can't. So as a company, a generalist company does just that. They tend to spread their advertising dollars over more products than they should. And then you get specialists, that comes up, and that specialist has a new formula or has a new technology or has a new advantage. And all they have to do is focus on that. That's all they got. Gotcha. So they gain traction.
Yep.
And they chip away at the generalist, because the generalist is trying to keep his eye on, 400, 800 SKUs or, products. And that specialist only has to worry about his little piece of the market, right? So your second part of your question is, how do you combat that?
Yeah.
You need more money, honestly. You need more money. You need more money for more R&D so that you keep products moving forward. We don't rest with Scent Away. The Scent Away evolved into Scent Away Max 2 years ago. It'll evolve into something else as new technologies and new R&D delivers us better product for hunters.
Okay.
So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is in addition to that, gosh, you need the money to be advertising things. You gotta drive a brand. Very, very few brands can ever survive without having some sort of a marketing push behind them.
Definitely. Right.
And I think that's in the past, in recent years with HS, I think that's really where they struggled, is having that critical mass of dollars to do both. You could do one or the other, but you couldn't do both. You couldn't fund R&D and do all the marketing you needed to do to fend off specialists.
Right.
So, I happen to be, in the enviable position to be working for a company that has both, and an investment team working with us that understands that growth comes from innovation, and we're driving that innovation every day.
That sounds like it sounds, fulfilling when there's success, but it seems like it's a lot of work. And it could be stressful, especially coming out of, the economy that we went through recently, to the lack of dollar that's available to fund your marketing and your product development. That's got to be a little stressful. And is that kind of where, did that have an effect on the company to the point where it was really a struggle, and this is what you're trying to turn around, or is there something else at play?
No, that does take a toll on a company, because you start to make, again, I'm going back 5 or 7 years when maybe the economy took a downturn and market shares started to slip and things like that. Again, it's very common in a business for that to happen. But once that starts to happen and the dollars aren't there to do, like I just said, either the marketing or the R&D or whatever it is, you start to make business decisions based on dollars and savings versus investing dollars, right?
Right.
So, here's the weird thing is in a marketing role, as vice president of marketing for any company, I can save the company right into bankruptcy.
Right.
That for a second.
Right.
If I'm not spending money, if I'm trying to save and conserve and, oh gosh, then I'm not driving it forward and we're going to end up going down. So there was a little of that going on, and they were really trying to protect their core and their employees. They did a very good job trying to protect their employees and keep people employed.
Yeah.
And that's a tough slope to get up.
Right.
Once you started down it. So, really, for the sake of the company, the best thing to do at that point for the owners at that point was to turn around and sell it to save it. And when you've got a great group like Peak Rock that we work with, these guys get it. They're all about investing, and so they want to squirt dollars and on every fire they can see just to get things going in the marketing side, on the R&D side, and on the operations side, and that's what they're doing. It's awesome. It really is awesome.
That's very cool. So how big is the R&D department? Do you have a department? And what are without giving away the farm, what types of things are you working on?
Well, I can't tell you the things that we're working on. All I can say on that is cool stuff. cool stuff that you'll want, Jay.
Cool. All right. I'll take one of each.
There you go. No, just trust me on this, just very, very cool things. R&D in this world is pretty awesome, in the sense that who better to come up with killer products than the guys that use them, right?
Absolutely.
And if you but you can't think that, all right, so let's go hire a bunch of egghead engineers that are also bow hunters and completely get it, and these guys are going to whip up awesome things. Sure, you do that. We've done that, and they've got some great ideas. But you'd be amazed at how many really, really cool ideas come to us from the outside. Guys that in their shop have come up with this whiz-bang new gizmo that they don't know how to market it. Right. They don't know how to sell it. They don't even know how much it costs to make. And they bring it to you and they go, well, I think this is pretty cool. What do you guys think? And in the short time that I've been here, I've been in a couple of, oh, wow, meetings. Like, that is just spectacular. Now, they can be spectacular and unmanufacturable. Right. You've got to weed through those. So, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to foster those ideas out from the outside, and you're trying to develop a team internally that can develop their own products, but also that product that the guy just brought in the front door, they can look at and say, geez, we know how to make this. We know the right plastics manufacturer to make this, or whatever the task might be. Right. And really take that guy's dream, turn it into a product, and go out and sell it. And the guy that walked in the door is set for life. Right. That's a cool thing.
There are so many good ideas out there. Mm-hmm. I've had a bunch come across my desk.
Yeah, I wonder where they come from, Jay.
Right. Mostly my buddy Dusty over here.
Yeah, Jay, I won't get into the details, but I was just back in New Hampshire recently, and had a mutual friend hook me up with an inventor. I won't say, a guy that just has a gun shop, and he was trying to solve the problem of some of his shooters that were coming in. Yep. And some of the ladies that were having problems shooting. And he said, can I run this by you? Can you just give me an objective kind of opinion on it? And I looked at this product, and it was absolutely spectacularly simple, and it solved the problem. Right. How much better can you get than that? So, we run into that all the time, and nothing would make me happier than to turn that product into a very successful product that he, makes tons of money on and HS benefits from. That's great. That's a win-win-win. That's all the way around. Love it.
That sounds very American to me.
I agree. absolutely agree.
I love that. So, all right. So, Craig, you're a big deer hunting passion guy. I mean, you love deer hunting. Like us.
Absolutely.
Let's talk some deer hunting a little bit.
I'm in.
So, back in the days of Plymouth State, where did you hunt?
Wait a minute. I didn't know we were going to get into telling my hunting stories and giving all my spots. No,
I don't want GPS coordinates. But so you're in college. You're roaming around the woods in New Hampshire. You're growing your hunting foundation mentally, and making this a career eventually for after you graduated. So what were your styles? I mean, when you actually were out hunting? I know those mountains. They're not friendly mountains all the time. What kind of what's your hunting philosophy, and what's your style? I mean, what's your favorite style of hunting?
Absolutely. So to answer the first question, I will tell you this: I hunted the Ossipee Mountains a lot.
Yep.
With the philosophy that big deer come off the top third of the mountain. Okay.
Yep.
And the deer biologists in the state looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Want to kill a big deer? Go to the top third of a mountain." Okay, that guy's telling me that. I'm going there. And as a young guy, as a young college guy, I could actually make it up to the top third of a mountain.
I was going to say, that was, if I got that message when I was in college, I'd be there within minutes. Today not so much.
And you know what? Through my college years, I was pretty darn successful in doing that. As you know, in New Hampshire, Dusty, you may not know this being a Midwest guy, but the deer density in New Hampshire is just really, really low. So if you're going to go sit in a tree, you're going to waste an awful lot of time looking at empty woods.
Right. I'm hearing that, Craig.
So, And so it's foreign to a lot of our Midwest brethren, right? I mean, that they just, you go and you see deer. Well, in New Hampshire, you don't. You got to go find deer. And so I would do that. And I would hunt the wind lot. I would still hunt. It would take me hours to go, 400, 500 yards. But in the right area, that's the kind of pace you want to be on. And I'd kill deer every year. Interestingly enough, my college roommates at Plymouth, 4 guys that I hunt with still today. One of those other guys is an executive in the outdoor market as well for another company. And we still go up to Rangeley, Maine and bird hunt every year. It's a great bond. We would catch white perch in the winter through the ice, and somebody would have shot a deer in the fall. And so we actually lived on venison and white perch all winter long while we were at college.
That's excellent.
Yeah. No, true story, not embellishing. We did. And we fed a lot of venison to rich kids from New York who thought they'd never eat it. And today, still hunt with us. We converted them from not wanting to hunt to still being lifelong hunters. So that was kind of cool as well.
That's really
my
cool.
style, my favorite style, Jay.
Yeah,
dude, I love to get on small woodlot whitetails and in the Northeast between housing developments. Sounds crazy, right?
Yeah. Okay. I need to hear more about that. Tell me about that some more.
So, I grew up in southern New Hampshire, and when I grew up, it was all farm country.
Right.
And as did most of that area, it started to grow up. And people have a picture of New Hampshire as being, you're the Northeast, it's got to be crazy crowded and everything. It's really not. I had 5 bear in my backyard last week. And so, but there's these great pieces of woods, 5, 6, 10, 12 acre chunks of woods that are between, housing developments, and they become funnel areas for deer. And, today's modern bow hunter with some trail cameras and multiple stand sets for wind and things like that can slip into these little areas and really shoot some spectacular deer, really, really some great deer. I've got a friend of mine in southern New Hampshire who sends me just trail cam pictures of deer that Dusty, if I showed them to you, you'd say, no way, that's an Ohio deer. But they're New Hampshire deer, and they live in between housing developments, not on the top. These particular ones aren't in the top third of mountains.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
They're eating Mrs. Smith's, rhododendrons.
Right. Right. So explain to that what makes these deer hang in them areas in New Hampshire.
Well, it's It's food source. You got to remember, in that part of the world, we don't necessarily have, soybean farms, cornfields, and things like that. Occasionally you'll have an apple orchard, but a deer like that can get into yards and areas where there are good things to eat. All right. They're protected. They smell people all day long. They hear people and dogs and everything all day long. So they tend to not be jumpy. So what I've done is I'll employ, really super, hyper OCD like scent elimination to my clothes and to my body. I'll wash all my clothes. I'll put the earth scent in with them in a scent proof bag until I'm ready to go hunt. Of course, wash down, whatever, play the wind and get in there. And it's okay if a deer smells you. You just want them to think that you're 400 yards away, 500 yards away, not 25 yards away.
Interesting. I haven't heard that yet. That's a very interesting point right there.
Yeah. So they're used to smelling humans. So you're not necessarily going to get busted unless it's stronger than they're used to smelling. Well, if you employ good scent elimination tactics, then they think, oh, well, okay, they might smell you at some point if the wind switches on you, but it's not so strong that it alerts them.
Makes sense.
And so, my group of guys that I still hunt with, and when I do get to hunt back there, I mean, they're good at it. There's a lot of guys in that state, in that area back there, that are spectacular tactical bow hunters. Small space, in and out, hunt it in the morning, get out. If the wind's not right, don't hunt it. So it's a different way. It's a different way of hunting. It's suburban hunting, if you will.
Right. We've been kind of exploring that whole suburban urban hunting strategy over the last couple episodes. So it's interesting you brought that up. Mm-hmm. So you grew up in that area. Certainly that area has grown up a lot, but now you've got more housing developments, more funnels, so to speak.
Yep.
And it sounds like you spend more of your time in the Midwest. And so it's a big transition coming from New Hampshire to live out there. What were the biggest challenges? Well,
for me, growing up in New Hampshire, and where the deer densities are low, and then when I was growing up, were almost non-existent. I remember getting excited about seeing a track back when I was in high school and in early college.
Right.
It's not like that today. You can go hunt and you can see deer, and it's pretty good. But when like I mentioned earlier, I had the opportunity to go to Kansas, right? So I go from the desert to this incredibly rich ecosystem of deer, right? And I didn't really understand deer until I could watch a lot of deer. And I think that's the advantage of a Midwest bow hunter right there.
Okay.
Is they understand deer body language. I had to learn that. The first time I crashed, a set of rattling antlers together in Kansas and had, 180-inch deer turn and run to me full steam and stop at 20 yards, I still had the rattling antlers in my hand. I didn't know what to do. I was so freaked out. Yeah. All right. And I never got a shot at that deer.
Now that's what I think I would do, to be honest.
And that's the kind of learning curve that, when you're from away, you've got to get into that. You got to understand deer. And, I've been afforded with the jobs that I've had, I've been afforded the great, benefit of hunting just awesome spots. And I never stopped learning. I never stopped learning about deer, and getting busted by a deer can teach you so much, not to mention make you humble.
Absolutely.
So that was probably one of the biggest things I had to do is get educated to deer.
Interesting.
And that's something that's often overlooked. That if you're not educated to deer, your success rates it's lower. Is that something you would agree with, Craig?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're going to move at the wrong time. You're going to hunt stands in the wrong wind. You're going to take the wrong route into your stand, thinking you might be doing the right thing. But the only way you really know if you're doing the right thing is time on that stand to find out where the deer are coming from, and then make sure that you're approaching it from the right direction. Exiting a stand, things like that. So yeah, the more you can know about your quarry, the more successful you're going to be. And for me, that lesson came late in my life, but it's awesome. Learn every year.
How many seasons did it take for you to really be settled in with some deer education? Can you give us a rough estimate?
I lived in Kansas for 5 years, and first year I didn't know. I'll honestly say, at the time I looked you in the eye and told you I was a hardcore bow hunter and knew what I was doing. It took me 3 to 4 years before I fully understood deer behavior, deer body language, and started killing some decent deer out there.
And that took your hunt to the next level, I'm sure.
It absolutely did. Yep, absolutely did. And in that case, taught me all about scent elimination. I mentioned that, hunting small woodlots back east and everything, that philosophy and any success I've had doing that, or my friends have had doing that, really carries from me being in Kansas and having to learn it, and then carrying it back to those small woodlots. And just getting like I said, just committed to being scent free.
Gotcha. So that's where that came from. So were you hunting small woodlots at home before you went to Kansas, or was this something you started to hone in on after you got back from Kansas?
Great question. No, I was, before I went to Kansas, I was hunting big woods. I was hunting the big woods.
Yeah.
And like I said, deer density is low. You got to be on the move, got to be stealthy, got to be smart, got to be patient. And that was in fact due to the deer populations in that part of the world were pretty low, but starting to grow nicely. By the time I moved back to New Hampshire from the Midwest, those deer numbers were way higher than we had ever seen before. And you could actually slip into a small piece of woods and say, I'm going to go see deer tonight, and actually see them, where that wasn't necessarily the case, say, in the 90s.
Right.
There weren't any deer there.
Interesting.
Yep.
So, Craig, one of the things we like to break down is, the gear that you use. And I'm sure that your bag is loaded with your products that you sell every day.
Yep.
So tell me about what you pack in your pack when you go into the woods, and is it different from if you hunt in New Hampshire versus hunting where you are now? Awesome
question, Jay. And before I answer that, I will tell you that I haven't worked for HS during a hunting season. So what's in my pack today is in my pack because it's what I count on to hunt with. So I'm not going to give you this answer because I happen to work for HS now. There are things in my pack that have been in my pack for 10 years because I count on them. So to answer your question, of course it's going to depend on how long I'm going to sit and things like that. But the essentials that I have in my pack are I've got a knife and I've got a GPS.
Okay.
If I'm going big woods, I've got a knife, a compass, and a GPS, right?
Right.
I've usually got a map. And when I talk big woods, I'm talking, I'm going to go in a couple of miles.
Right.
And so from a safety standpoint, I've make sure I've got those. I've got spare batteries for GPS at all times. That's my Garmin pedigree right there. Always got to have GPS and fresh batteries.
Right.
Sharp knife. Always carry a sharp knife. I carry a Boker knife right now that I've had for a couple of years. I absolutely love it. Don't know anybody at Boker. I love this particular knife. It's small, 4-inch blade, great steel, keeps an edge. I've got probably 6-7 deer with it, and it's as sharp today as it was then. I haven't even touched it up. Awesome product. Always have field wipes. All right, for cleanup after gutting a deer or whatever, or just general cleanup. Know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Loud and clear.
There you go. And I've got a butt out in there. Yep. I've got extra gloves, a hat, a flashlight, extra batteries. I carry a I've got a Streamlight flashlight that I really love. I've also got a Surefire small light that I think is spectacular. So really, really good flashlight is required. If I'm going to an area where I think I need them, I've always got binoculars.
Okay.
Right. And good binoculars, high power, small woodlots and stuff. I wouldn't take that along. You don't need the weight. And then if I'm bow hunting, rangefinder, and then usually something to eat.
Right. Oh, good point. Yeah. I wasn't thinking about that stuff, but you're right.
Protein bars and I read a lot. So I may have my Kindle with me, and I may have a book with me. If I'm going to go put an all-day sit in, I'm gonna read a book.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
I've heard that before, where people take a paperback with them and just be reading, and the buck's back. There he is. And next thing you know, they're hanging in the big barn in Warner.
There you go.
That's amazing how that kind of happens.
Did you say Warner?
Warner, yep.
Oh, see, now I know where you hunt.
Yep. Now you do. I gave that away, didn't I? All right. So that's interesting. I'd like to go on a deer hunt with you, Craig, virtually here, if you could. And I'd like you to take us back in time a little bit to one of your most memorable buck hunts, if you could, and kind of slow it down for us a little bit. Do like a play-by-play, maybe start about 2 days before the hunt and set it up for us. And I'd like to have Dusty kind of drive the ship here and kind of walk you through that. Would you be willing to take us on a deer hunt with you?
Yeah, I gotta think back to I've got a lot of memorable hunts, but I can work with you on one. I've got one particular one that I shot in Wyoming. It was great deer.
In Wyoming, okay, excellent.
Dusty,
so
we're going to Wyoming. All right, let's get into a little bit about your gear setup. You say we're going to Wyoming. Tell us what was you hunting with when you was in Wyoming on this particular hunt?
So it was when I was with Thompson Center, and I had my Triumph bone collector muzzleloader.
Okay, so we're using a muzzleloader.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yep, I was shooting 90 grains of Blackhorn. I'm sorry, 100 grains of Blackhorn 209 powder. Spectacular product right there. And shooting a 250 grain Shockwave bullet.
Nice.
My muzzleloader has a Nikon scope on top, and I've got it marked. I know I went and printed out exactly how that reticle reads. I spent a lot of time at the range with this, and so on the stock of my gun, you can look down, and it has a picture of the different reticles in the. It's the BDC reticle by Nikon. And so I know based on the ranges where I have to hold.
No kidding.
So, I'm not obsessive about it, but you know what, guys, if you're going to go out and hunt good deer, good quality deer, and if you're going to go pay to do it, you darn well better know how your equipment performs.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more to that. What year are we going back to?
Oh, this would have been 2011. 2011. Yep.
Perfect. 2011. We're going on a muzzleloader hunt. Tell us a little bit about your camo.
Pretty much wearing at that point is one of those times we all dread this, where you're out there, you want that crisp cold, and what you get is really kind of hot midday. Realtree, was what I was wearing for a pattern. At that point, wearing some Under Armour. I had both cold weather and warm weather stuff because we were also doing some pronghorn hunting while we were there. And so I had to, this particular area, I don't want to get ahead, but this particular area was river bottom, and it was still green where everything around it was brown.
Nice.
So I blended in pretty well.
Very well. So we're going back to 2011. We're on a muzzler hunt. Let's get into 48 hours before you squeeze the trigger. Can you take us there?
Absolutely. So 48 hours before, we were, as what's customary when you're hunting those river bottoms, it's just so awesome for a kid from New Hampshire to go do this. But you'll get on a high bluff and you'll start glassing, and your optics are critical. And you're just looking for, obviously, good deer, good mature deer, but then where are they coming in from? And you're observing what the wind's doing. And so 48 hours ahead, we had been way high on a bluff, overlooking probably 5 miles of river bottom, between the couple of vantage points we had, and trying to pick out what we felt were the best areas for opportunity and the best deer within those areas. So yeah, we did a little hunting 48 hours prior, but we mostly did a lot of looking.
So when you say looking, you're looking from a high vantage point down along the river bottoms?
Into the river bottoms, yep. And gotcha. that particular part of the world has, great river bottoms with bordered by a lot of alfalfa fields.
Okay, and so you can see for a long distance.
See a long distance. I mean, it's very common to look into a field and see 40 deer in the field. That's just very common.
No kidding. That's an excellent view from a set of binoculars, I'll tell you that.
It is very cool. But, think about that from a challenge standpoint and a wind standpoint. That's, 40 sets of eyes and 40 of the keenest noses in the woods. So
absolutely.
A lot of challenge added there.
So where do you go after you found the buck that you want to try to get in on? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, so this was what made it memorable. It was pretty cool. We had seen this particular alfalfa field. We noticed that there were deer filtering in from one end of the field. And it was pretty long. It was probably 450 yards long. And at the other end, the opposite end from where the deer were coming in, there were, I'll say hay bales, but they were the big round bales, if you will.
Right.
And there was a huge stack of them in a pyramid shape that went on for 75, 80 yards. So let's say there were three rolls on the bottom, 2 stacked on top of it, and then 1 that sat on top of the 2. And made a pyramid, and then there was a whole bunch of those that was probably 40, 50 yards long, something like that. It was long. What we decided to do is, what if we got up onto that and let those deer filter out and just like a sniper, set up there, comfortable rest, shoot prone. This is just so perfect. The deer are going to come out and fall down. They're going to be so blown away by our intelligence, right? And so that's what we did. We went and set up. That was 24 hours prior to. I don't want to get ahead, Dusty.
Right now, tell me about the hay bales. Got me interested. Tell me about how did you climb all the way to the top of the pyramid?
Yep. So went up to the top of the pyramid, laid on the top of these hay bales.
So this is like hunting from a bed.
It was awesome, and I just mentioned a minute ago that it was warm during the midday, so I literally had to get up there early because the deer were going to filter in early, and I'm sure I scared a few away with my snoring because it was probably the most comfortable deer stand I've ever had.
Right, absolutely.
Yep.
It's like a king size mattress if you're laying on top of a round bale.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's fantastic.
It was terrific. Yep.
So we're up on these round bales, and this is what, 24 hours before?
Yes. Yep. This is the night before. Yep.
And tell us how that day finished out.
So I sat and watched these deer filter in from 450 yards away, feed right up the middle of this field, and come by the bottom of that pile of hay that I was laying on top of. And with the wind direction the way it was, there wasn't a chance that any of them were gonna see me. And this was so perfect. Gosh, I'm just the smartest deer hunter in the world, and look at me, I'm great, right? No big deer showed. So I watched 50 or 60 deer parade by me, young bucks, does, no shooter bucks. Except right at dark, I start to see big bodies come out of the far end. And they were at least an hour later than they had been the night before. And so that had me worried. Too dark and too far for me to shoot. And so I just basically had to get down off of this hay bale and do my best to get out of the field without being busted.
Gotcha. Right. So how do you do that? You're out in the middle of a field. How do you sneak out of that?
You sneak out to the sounds of deer blowing and snorting as they run away from you. You know as well as I do.
Right. So you don't get out.
Curious if you made it out without getting busted.
Right.
Well, I was doing that kind of that stalking walk, but they totally were onto me. No, man. You know, what was funny is when you go out in the dark, I let it get real dark, and I walked out, and you'd be amazed in the dark what you can get away with. The wind was right. They couldn't smell me, so I didn't get blown at until I got way beyond them, and then my scent was back onto the field. But, you know, I had deer that would just stand and watch me at 20, 25 yards.
No kidding.
And as long as I had my arms in tight, I had my head down low, and I was kind of checking them out of my peripheral vision, they didn't necessarily care about me. I wasn't a threat. I was walking away from them, and I wasn't doing anything that was garnering too much attention, and they couldn't smell me. And I think that was probably the most forgiving thing, is that they couldn't smell me.
Right.
Like I said, eventually when I hit the road, hit the little farm road in the wind, I got upwind of them. Then they were on me, and the blowing started.
So at that point, you was free and clear, and just let it settle back down.
Yep.
So the next morning, we get up. What time we get up the next morning to head out?
Well, next morning we're up real early and went out and scouted some bluffs. Put a stalk on deer in the bottoms. Crusty frozen morning, awesome hunt. You see lots of deer out there, and that's really cool. But just didn't see any shooters. Really weren't any shooters that I was looking for. And as it got warm towards the midday, I knew that chances are I was going to go back to that hay bale. And it was the deer that I had seen the night before that drew me back there. And it was also the fact that it was just a cool place to be sitting and watching deer.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So you get back to the hay bale. What time we talking during the day did you get back to the hay?
So get back to the hay about 2:30.
So we're on the hay at 2:30.
So right, so we're in the afternoon at this point.
Yep.
Is it nap 30 or is it deer 30?
No, I've already had my nap back at camp. But here's the thing: is I get in there and I get to the hay bale and I go, we got a wrong wind direction. If I get up onto this hay bale, if the wind maintains its direction, I'm going to have it coming right past my shoulder and out into the field. Obviously, that's not going to work. So I'm thinking, what do I got going on? I know I can't leave because I was entertaining a lot of outdoor riders at the time, and I was the last one to get dropped off because I dropped all the outdoor riders off and went and sat in this place. And I thought, so I'm stuck here today. I'm not going to go find somewhere else. I don't want to mess anybody else's hunt up. So it is what it is. But this wind is not going to work for me.
Right.
So I got down off the hay bale, went to the far right-hand side of the field, which was now if I was standing on the far right-hand side, the wind would be blowing left to right on my left shoulder and towards where those deer came in. And I thought, you know what? The wind direction is great for the deer. They're still going to come in at that end of the field because they're going to come in with their nose in the wind. That's perfect. I have to get farther down. I have to be to the right of the field, and I got to let them walk by me, and I just have to let all these deer filter by me all afternoon until the right one comes by. So I went down the right-hand side of the field. It was tall grass, tall CRP type grass. About the only thing I could find was there was a little in there that I could get down in and lay in, and I bent the grass in front of me down so that I had a V slot that I could look through. And there was, I could only see about 50 yards of field in front of me, but I knew every deer in that field was going to come through that.
Okay.
The wind was now solidly blowing from my left to my right, and those deer were going to come out in front of me from the right.
This don't sound as comfortable as the hay bales.
It was not very comfortable at all. Not at all. There was no snoring going on with that. Yeah.
Right.
aching knees, aching butt. Yep.
Yep.
And the thing is the deer start coming early, so you're stuck.
You're on lockdown.
You get a leg cramp, you're just going to lay there and whimper in silence. That's all you can do.
That's so true.
So we're sitting on the ground at this point.
Yep.
And the deer are starting to filter out. What time is it? The first deer comes.
Oh man, 3:00, 3:15.
You're really locked down for a good while.
Yep. And I've got 2 hours, solid 2 hours that I've got to sit there.
Wow.
Yep.
So you're on lockdown at 3:00. Move on. What happens next?
They start coming and I'm just trapped. And I sat there and I probably watched between 50 and 60 deer.
Wow.
Filter anywhere from 10 feet to 50 yards from me as they fed up this field. Never once looked at me, never had a blow or a glance or a head bob or anything at me that would indicate they knew I was there. And that was kind of empowering, right? When you know you've fooled the smart old does.
Oh yeah.
And it was just a waiting game at that point. I didn't know if there was going to be any good bucks that came out. And but I figured at that point, gosh, I can't be in a better spot than this right here.
So all the does filter out. We're still sitting on the ground in the grass.
Yep.
It's
dark,
getting towards evening. Getting
dark, getting cold, and I have a really spectacular 8-pointer walk by, and I thought, gosh, that might be the one, and I'm I want to kill a mature deer like the next guy, and but I don't want to just. I'd rather go home empty-handed than to put something on the ground that I wasn't sure was exactly what I wanted. And so I got 6s and 8-pointers, and this big 8 comes by, and I thought, man, that could be the one. That could be the one. But I watch him and talk about body language, and he's looking back over his shoulder. And I thought, you know what? I can't see what he's looking back at, but I bet it's bigger than him. And it's getting dark out. It's, I look kind of to my right through the grass. I can see a rack coming through the field. I can't make the body out because of the grass in front of me. And he comes into that opening, and I just said, that's the deer I'm after right there. Hammer comes back silent, put it right behind the shoulder. Boom, shoot, typical, muzzleloader smoke cloud that billows out.
Right.
And there's a deer laying there on the ground when the smoke clears. Mm-hmm. So, that's awesome. What I love about hunting the most is setting the trap. And when the right deer triggers the trap, it's just as exhilarating as you can get. And I walked out as a gorgeous, gorgeous deer. Not the biggest deer I've ever shot. It wasn't a monster by any means, but it was the whole hunt from the haystack to the wind to the hidey hole to the everything that I had going on. And there's this gorgeous 11-pointer laying there, mature deer. And I sat there for a minute and said a few words that I always do over the deer that I've just been fortunate enough to take. And I looked up, and it's now getting real dark. And I look up, and there is a giant deer walking at me in the dark.
No kidding. And
I'm still on one knee next to this deer, and I look back down the field, and here he comes, and he is just a giant. It still haunts me today. And he walked within 20 yards of me, and I thought, my gosh, he doesn't even know I'm here. And I know he's got to win me by now. That deer walked in, and I finally stood up from the deer that I was kneeling by. And he stopped and looked at me like, what are you doing here? Where'd you come from? And just boom, turned around and ran back into the woods. And he was the deer of a lifetime. But that alone, that's okay. That's okay. I wasn't disappointed about this gorgeous 11-pointer that I had on the ground. That in so many guys' lives would be a deer of a lifetime. And I was blessed to be able to take that deer. And the whole hunt. That whole western hunt out there in that river bottom, hunting the wind, hunting a lot of deer. Gosh, I can't think of it getting any better than that.
Absolutely. Great story, by the way. Man,
that's tremendous.
Had me hooked in on that one.
You had me hooked for sure. So, Craig, what would the Craig of today tell the Craig of 20 years ago?
Stop going to the top third of the mountain, Craig. No, I wouldn't. I killed a New Hampshire buck last fall at the top of a mountain. Okay. No, what would I guess, what would I, gosh.
It's a tough question.
It is a really tough question. God, you should have told me these ahead of time. I could have had some smart answer.
It's better when you're on the spot.
Right.
Yeah. Be patient, relax. I think I've always been a patient hunter. But I think there were times where I gave up too quickly.
Yep.
And it's just sit, relax, stop moving, slow down. And I watch kids today that are hunting, and I have found myself saying that. My son and his buddies are all 20 years old. And like any 20-year-old, they're addicted to their cell phone, and they've grown up in a world that they've got appointments made for them from day one for soccer practice and all sorts of things, and they're used to a regimented go lifestyle. I guess I wasn't as bad as that when I grew up, but boy, the advice I would give to myself is the same as I tell my son and all his hunting buddies now: is stop moving, start watching and be patient, because looking down at your phone and texting away is you're not going to see deer, and they're going to spot you way before you ever think you're going to see them.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great life point right there. Great hunting point. If you said you're a reader, so I assume that you've read many a deer hunting book. If you had to pick out one, which one was your favorite? Or which one comes to mind when I say that?
I was given a book. Gosh, man, I wish I knew that I was given a book when I was a teenager by a gentleman. And it was and I'm sorry that I don't know the name or the author, and very unlike me to not know that. Usually I remember these types of things, but it was a how-to deer hunting book.
Okay. It
was techniques. And I read that and did some things, did some techniques in that book that paid off. And that was the year that I shot my first, it was my first buck, beautiful 8-pointer that I took in the Lakes region in New Hampshire. And it was because of some of the things I read in that book. And again, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it, but it stuck with me. And I had borrowed the book from the gentleman, and he was going to let me read it. And after I killed that buck, he said, "I suppose I'm not getting my book back, am I?" I said, "Not a chance.
No way.
Not a chance of getting the book back." I love a lot of. I've read a lot of great books. A lot of bird hunting books. I love to bird hunt too. Burton Spiller is a great New England writer from decades ago who really embodies the quintessential New England bird hunter. I love his stuff. Bill Tapley, those types of authors. But really, the how-to stuff. Greg Miller. Read anything by Greg Miller.
Sure.
Greg Miller's probably written 7 books. You want to learn something about deer hunting? Go read Greg Miller's books.
Okay, that's a good one right there. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
And if we all have these objects, these tools or things we need to bring into the woods with us to make us feel lucky, to actually make us successful, or maybe it's just a pacifier, I don't know, but there are some things that I have in my pack that if I forget and I leave it in my truck, it drives me insane all day if I'm in the field. What's that one item for you other than a weapon?
You've been in my head or something like that, because I was laughing about this the other day. Do you know what a monkey fist is? You'll see them. It's a ball. It's a twine ball.
Okay.
All right. So in this case, you'd see them on ships and things like that, where it's a way of storing a lot of rope in a ball, and they tie it in. It's called a monkey fist as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think it's called a monkey fish knot, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, I know what it is.
So I have Years ago, I picked up this paracord, survival paracord, tied into a monkey fist. Okay. And it's on a carabiner. And I've always thought, gosh, if I get stuck overnight, I'm going to need 20 feet of paracord to make myself a shelter or something like that. I've been carrying this thing around for 15 years or more. It goes pack to pack with me. And good Lord, I'm never going to get stuck overnight needing 20 feet of power cord. But that stupid monkey fist goes with me everywhere I go. The one constant that I've had that I wouldn't know what to do if that thing wasn't there. Or if I had to use it, I'd have to go find another one.
Right. Exactly. I always felt, there's always that one thing we've all got. And it's your monkey fist. What's your monkey fist? There you go.
Yep.
That's one of the most unique ones we've heard, Jay.
It is a unique one, but I think we've all got them, and sometimes we don't realize we have them because it's just always there. Yeah.
There's a couple of other great things that I have, and I won't belabor the fact, but I was given a rifle, a 243 Win rifle, by a gentleman by the name of Chuck Orleans in New Hampshire. And Chuck is from a great hunting family and has killed a ton of bucks, and he is a quintessential deer hunter. He's got the record book muzzleloader if you look it up. He's got it's a 100 scores 181, I believe, and change out of southern New Hampshire.
Wow.
But Chuck was one guy in my life that my parents didn't hunt, didn't have anything against it, just didn't do it. And Chuck at the time had kids that were living away in a broken family and didn't get to see him. So I became his surrogate son. He took me under his wing and taught me to hunt. And so when I was a young man, my parents didn't hunt. They didn't have anything against it. They just didn't hunt, and really taught me a lot about hunting, fly fishing, and everything. And he gave me a 243, a custom made 243. And, I say custom, it's not a collector's piece by any means, but certainly has a lot of sentimental value. And I went on to kill an awful lot of deer with that rifle. Owe a debt of gratitude to Chuck for really inspiring me to keep hunting and fishing and make it a part of my life. And like special, he's a great guy, a great hunter.
Cheers to Chuck. We all need a Chuck in our life, that's for sure.
Yeah. So and he also killed one heck of a muzzleloader buck.
I will look that up. I'm going to check that and see what that one's all about. He'd be an interesting person to talk to. Sounds like he's quite an educator.
Yeah, he's a neat guy. He's been in failing health in recent years, but that hasn't really stopped him from getting out and doing as much hunting as he can.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, Craig, we are beyond our hour, and I had a sense that was probably going to happen. We had lots to talk about once we get into the deer stories. So, I want to thank you for joining us, and it's been an honor and an absolute pleasure. You're a fantastic storyteller, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, you definitely know how to capture an audience. So I appreciate that, and I think you probably put you in the right position at Hunter Specialties, knowing that you know how to capture an audience, which is what it's all about, really.
Well, thank you guys, man. I really appreciate it. And anytime you want insight or perspective on the industry, just reach out to me, man. I'd love to talk with you and the listeners.
I would love that. And we will definitely follow up. But thanks for joining us on the Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Thank you, guys.
So I'd say Craig's a pretty good storyteller, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
I love the hay bale story.
Oh, what a phenomenal story. Could you imagine that a hay bale would work like that and what you can do with that?
Right. And that sometimes, he adapted to his situation, realized the wind wasn't blowing right, and found a new location.
That's all just part of hunting.
Yeah. Shot a big buck and then realized that there were other big bucks in the area, and he wished he had waited. But that's hunting. That's the way it goes. But it's just he gave us a lot of good insight into kind of how he hunts in New Hampshire. The map layout that he's looking for, hunting in between housing developments, not something I would have necessarily thought about, but that's the way he approaches it in certain areas of the country. And then he has new tactics and new stuff in his bag when he moves out to the Midwest. Of course, all of it, or most of it, is a Hunter Specialty product. So it's just fascinating to hear about the company itself and hear how he approaches hunting after he's been able to adapt to different areas. Just really good tips.
Yeah, I think that's what drives most hunters, Jay, to hunt different states because of the different terrain, the different techniques. It's not the same old routine every day in, day out.
I agree. And it's just interesting when you have that abilities, or you have that ability to actually make that happen. I think that's very cool. So thank you to Craig Cushman for joining us on the Big Buck Podcast. Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week?
We do have Chubby Tines tip of the week.
All right, lay it on me.
So we're going to talk a little bit about cold weather, just something that I work with cold weather. And it may just be that little tip that helps you stay out there that extra half hour that you need to maybe to get the kill shot in. We get into a lot of, cold hands, cold feet discussions.
Yeah.
Well, I take and wrap blankets around my feet up in the tree stand.
Interesting. So you bring a special one with you?
Absolutely. It's camouflage. It's almost like a comforter blanket, but I've actually cut it in half and sewed it, just hand stitch, where you can wrap that thing around your feet, Jay, and just slide your feet down into it to keep that cold chill off your actual hunting boots. And the great thing is that it's a thick enough material and soft enough material, like a comforter, that there's no sound if you need to stand up.
Right.
If you stand up, make that bow shot, or if you need to move your feet a little bit just to adjust to maybe your legs going to sleep from setting, but there's really no noise there. And it's that barrier from the actual cold elements just pounding on your boots, turning your whole boot cold.
That's a good tip, man. And it works. Gives you that edge that you need.
Yeah, it's just a little barrier that your actual body heat can keep your boots warm enough to make it where you're able to sit out there long enough to complete the hunt.
Very nice, man. Very, very cool. Well, Dusty, how can we find you when you're not here on the mic with me?
Well, you want to shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can look me up on Facebook, facebook.com/chubbygobbler, facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. And you can also look me up on Instagram @ChasingAntler. Jay, how can people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
Well, the best way is shoot me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. And you can always reach Dusty at bigbuckregistry.com. If you'd like to show off your photo of a big buck that you just shot, best place to go is bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck. And all the instructions will be right there for you. If you are listening to this show and you have an Apple phone or Apple device, please do a search in your podcast app for Big Buck Registry and leave us a review, a 5-star if you love the show. And if you'd like to download the app for listening to this show on an Apple device, separate from the native podcast player, you can go to bigbuckregistry.com/app. And again, if you love this show enough and you have a few extra dollars, please visit bigbuckregistry.com/donate or bigbuckregistry.com/pledge, and you can just pledge your support for this show. Well, Dusty, this is another great show. Thank you to Craig Cushman. I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast. See you next week.
Can't wait.